The moon hung low over the twisted trees of Transylvania, a pale disk casting long shadows that danced across the forest floor. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. I pulled my jacket tighter around me, glancing at Maria as she adjusted the straps of her backpack, her blonde hair shimmering like a beacon against the encroaching darkness. "Are you sure we're going the right way?" she asked, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. I shrugged, feeling the weight of uncertainty settle in my stomach. "The map says we're close. Just a little further and we'll find that waterfall." She looked at me, her eyes wide. "You mean the one that supposedly has magical properties?" "The stories about it are intense. Intense is one way to put it. But it's just a waterfall, right? We'll get our pictures and head back before dark." I nodded, trying to convince myself as much as her. As we trudged deeper into the woods, the sounds of the forest seemed to shift. The wind whispered through the branches, a low sigh that sent chills down my spine. I glanced back at Maria, who was staring up at the trees, her brow furrowed. "Andrew, do you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Hear what?" I asked, squinting into the shadows. She hesitated before replying, "I don't know. Just something." I rolled my eyes, trying to shake off the unease creeping in. "It's probably just some animals. Let's keep moving." But as we continued, the sounds grew more distinct. Low growls and rustling leaves. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand erect. "Maybe we should turn back," Maria suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "No way, we're too close now." I forced a smile, hoping to mask my own growing dread. Just a little further. The trees loomed larger as we walked, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. With each step, the atmosphere thickened, and the shadows deepened, closing in around us. Then we stumbled into a clearing, and there it was, the waterfall, cascading over the rocks, shimmering under the moonlight. "Wow," Maria breathed, her fear momentarily forgotten as she stepped closer to the water's edge. I joined her, the sound of the rushing water drowning out the eerie noises of the forest. "This is it." We made it. But my triumph was short-lived. From the corner of my eye, I caught movement in the trees. I turned sharply, heart racing, but saw nothing. Just shadows. "Andrew?" Maria's voice was small, and I could feel her tension radiating off her. "Yeah, I saw something too," I admitted reluctantly. "Let's snap a few pictures and get out of here." As I fumbled with my phone, the atmosphere shifted once more. The sounds of the forest faded, replaced by an ominous silence. My fingers shook as I aimed the camera at the waterfall. "Say cheese." Maria laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "Cheese," I echoed, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But my laughter felt hollow. Suddenly a howl pierced the silence, echoing through the trees, a bone-chilling sound that sent a wave of panic crashing over us. "Did you hear that?" Maria's eyes widened, her grip tightening on my arm. "Yeah," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "We need to go, now." We turned to leave, but before we could take a step, shadows darted between the trees, fast and silent. My heart raced as I glanced back. "Andrew!" Maria screamed, her voice high and terrified. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, eyes glowing like embers. My breath caught in my throat as I realized what it was. A werewolf. Its fur glistening under the moonlight, muscles rippling as it stalked toward us. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Maria's hand and pulling her with me. We tore through the underbrush, branches scratching at our skin, the undergrowth snapping beneath our feet. I could hear the creature's growls behind us, the sound rumbling like thunder. "Faster!" Maria cried, her breath coming in sharp gasps. We burst into a narrow path, the trees closing in around us like a cage. I could feel the creature gaining on us, its hot breath sending chills down my spine. "Where do we go?" Maria shouted, panic lacing her words. "I don't know." "Just keep running," I yelled back, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The path twisted and turned, and I felt disoriented, the shadows warping around us. I needed to find a way out, but every direction felt like a trap. Then, without warning, Maria stumbled, falling to her knees. "Go," she screamed, her face pale with fear. "I'll be fine." "No way." I grabbed her hand, pulling her to her feet. But the werewolf was closer now, its growls echoing in my ears, a primal sound that threatened to drown out everything else. "Andrew, please," she begged, her eyes wide with terror. "We can't fight it." I glanced back, the creature emerging from the shadows, its teeth gleaming. "We have to—" A loud crack echoed through the air, and I saw a figure leap from the trees. tackling the werewolf to the ground. "Run!" shouted a stranger, their voice fierce and commanding. I hesitated, but Maria yanked my arm, pulling me forward. "Go, go!" We sprinted past the fight, the sounds of snarls and growls fading behind us. I didn't look back. I couldn't. We burst through the trees into another clearing, panting and gasping for breath. The moonlight bathed the area in an eerie glow, illuminating a small cabin nestled among the trees. "Is that the house?" Maria asked, her eyes wide. "Looks like it," I replied, glancing behind us. The sounds of the fight faded, but the tension still filled the air. "We should check it out." We approached cautiously, the wooden door creaking ominously as I pushed it open. Inside, the cabin was dark, the only light coming from the moon filtering through grimy windows. Dust motes danced in the air, and the scent of old wood filled my nostrils. "Hello?" I called, my voice echoing in the silence. No response. "Maybe we should just leave," Maria suggested, looking nervously over her shoulder. "Wait." I stepped further into the cabin, scanning the room. There were old maps pinned to the walls and dusty furniture cluttering the corners. "This place might have something we can use." "Use for what?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "Defending ourselves," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I rifled through the drawers, pulling out an old hunting knife and a tattered flashlight. "Here, take this." I handed her the knife, its blade glinting in the dim light. "Andrew, this is crazy. What if they find us here? We can't just sit around and wait for them to come," I said, my frustration bubbling over. "We need to do something." Just then, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by a series of growls. My heart raced as I looked at Maria, who was clutching the knife like a lifeline. "Hide," I whispered urgently, pushing her behind a dilapidated couch. I peeked through the window, my breath hitching in my throat. The werewolf was out there, pacing back and forth, its eyes scanning the area. I could almost feel the weight of its gaze, searching for us. The cabin felt like a tomb, the air thick with dread. "Do you think it knows we're here?" Maria whispered, her voice trembling. I shook my head, trying to stay calm. "It's just hunting. We need to stay quiet." Moments stretched into eternity, the sounds of the forest fading into a tense silence. Then a loud crash jolted me. The door splintered as the werewolf charged in, eyes blazing with hunger. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing Maria's hand again as we dashed toward the back of the cabin. We raced through the narrow hall, the werewolf hot on our heels, growling fiercely. I spotted a window at the end, the moonlight illuminating the escape route. "Jump!" I yelled, pushing Maria ahead of me as I dove through the opening. We landed hard on the forest floor, the earth cool against my skin. I heard the werewolf howl in frustration behind us, and we scrambled to our feet, adrenaline surging. "Where do we go?" Maria panted, glancing back at the cabin. "Into the woods," I urged, leading her deeper into the trees as we ran. Branches whipped against us, and the darkness enveloped us like a shroud. I could hear the werewolf crashing through the underbrush, its growls echoing like thunder. "We can't let it catch us," I shouted, pushing forward. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my leg as I stumbled, falling to the ground. I looked down to see blood seeping through my jeans. "Andrew!" Maria cried, her voice filled with panic. "I'm fine," I gritted out, trying to stand. "Just a scratch. We need to keep moving." But as I pushed myself up, the werewolf emerged from the shadows, eyes locked on us with predatory intent. "Run!" I yelled again, shoving Maria ahead of me. I turned to face the creature, brandishing the knife with unsteady hands. It lunged at me, jaws snapping, and I barely dodged its attack. "Get away!" I shouted, slashing the blade at it. It howled in fury, the sound echoing through the night as it recoiled, eyes narrowing in anger. "Andrew, please." Maria's voice broke through my focus, and I felt a surge of determination. I couldn't let it have her. With a roar, the werewolf lunged again, and I swung the knife, catching its side. It howled, a sound filled with rage and pain, before backing off momentarily. "Now!" I shouted, grabbing Maria's hand once more. We ran, the forest a blur around us as we navigated through the trees, breathless and terrified. "Where are we going?" Maria asked, her voice strained. "Anywhere but here," I replied, pushing through the underbrush. But the growls followed us, relentless and hungry. The world felt like it was closing in, the shadows twisting and turning around us. Then we broke through the trees into a clearing, and in the center stood a stone altar, ancient and covered in moss. My heart raced as I spotted symbols etched into the surface, ritualistic markings. "Andrew?" Maria's voice trembled as I approached the altar. What is this place? Maybe it's a way to stop them, I suggested, glancing back toward the forest. The werewolf was still coming, its growls growing louder. Are you crazy? Maria said, fear lacing her voice. We can't stay here. I need to try, I insisted, desperation clawing at my insides. If we don't do something, it'll kill us. I placed my hands on the altar, feeling the cold stone beneath my fingers. The symbols pulsed with energy, and I could sense a connection, a power that surged through me. Andrew! Maria screamed as the werewolf emerged from the trees, fur bristling, eyes glowing with rage. I closed my eyes, focusing on the energy flowing from the altar, channeling it into the air. Get back! I shouted, my voice echoing with newfound strength. The werewolf hesitated, growling low as if sensing the shift in the atmosphere. I opened my eyes, locking my gaze with the creature's fiery stare. Leave us, I commanded, feeling the power surge through me. The werewolf snarled, but the energy pulsed, resonating with the symbols on the altar. Please, Maria whispered, tears glistening in her eyes.
Make it stop.
With one final surge of strength, I shouted, Begone! The ground shook and the werewolf howled, the sound piercing through the night. It staggered back, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Then with a final growl, it turned and fled into the shadows, disappearing into the depths of the forest. Silence enveloped us, the tension dissipating like mist in the dawn. I sank to my knees, breathless and trembling, the energy from the altar still humming in the air. Did we do it? Maria asked, her voice shaky. I think so, I replied, my heart racing as I looked around. But we need to get out of here. We stood together, the weight of our near escape settling over us like a heavy blanket. Andrew, I was so scared, Maria confessed, her voice small. I know, I said, taking her hand. But we made it. We survived. As we turned back toward the path, I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest still held secrets, that the shadows had eyes watching us even now. But we had faced the darkness together, and that made all the difference. Let's find a way out, I said, glancing one last time at the altar before stepping into the trees. Together, Maria replied, her grip tightening on my hand. And as we walked back into the night, the moon shone bright above us, lighting our path as we ventured back to the world beyond the forest, leaving the horror behind, at least for now.